Welcome back to Take 10, Leadership Series podcast with Y CEO Cameron Corder and myself, Jasmine Bullard, where we hope to inspire, encourage, and motivate your leadership.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Cam Corder again with another episode of Take 10. I am joined by friend and a colleague, David Jezek from St. Petersburg, Florida, the CEO of the YMCA there. Don't know David well, but watched him from afar. He's first class. He does great work. I've been a big fan of his. We've been on a lot of phone calls before. I've seen him and heard him talk, and we see each other at conferences and things. But David, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, David's retiring. He's announced. What's your day? What's your last day?
Well, it sometime before Thanksgiving, maybe the Friday before Thanksgiving, and that's still kind of up in the air. But I'll finish the year. I'll finish finish the year. I want to be available certainly for the incoming CEO and the transition. So, if that takes me into the early part of next year just to be available, I'll do whatever it takes.
So tell us, let's start at the beginning. What was your entree into the Y? What was your first job at a YMCA?
Well, it really goes back to, I felt there was a period of time I felt like I was born at the Y. My dad was a YMCA director, so I was
Mine too.
Into the Y, right? In fact, when I was going to school at a young age, they said, "Where were you born?" I would often say I was born at the Y. And I learned recently from my 90-year-old mother that she reminded me that my middle name, Wayne, I'm named after a gentleman that was my dad's, one of his closest friends, that actually introduced my dad to a career in the YMCA. So not only is it in my DNA, it's also in my name. I think that's kind of funny. But
it's funny that you say that. My middle name is Ross, who was my father's boss that hired him into the Y. That was,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we're the same,
Well, listen, like I said, I mean, my first introduction to the Y, I caught my first fish on a camp out at Camp Classen in Oklahoma at the Y there. I learned to swim at the Y. My dog flunked obedience school at the Shawnee Y. I learned to play chess. We did bottle rocketry. I got in trouble a lot at the Y. I was a Y brat. I mean, my dad,
telling my story.
My first job probably was when Dad said, "Hey, I need you to go into the gym and take that big dust mop and mop the gym floor." And of course, I would say, "Can I get a Coke?" And I knew I'd get one because he had the keys to the Coke machine. And it wasn't the can, it was the bottle Cokes. And so that was probably my first volunteer told work for a Coke job at the Y. But I will finish 42 years professionally with the Y. But if you count, some of the high school, college years of working, seasonally at the Y, from a small town in Texas, where I don't even know if we had in our vocabulary nepotism. I mean, everybody worked wherever they worked, right? So it wouldn't really matter. And probably, I got a chance to work for my dad the first 5 years of my career. It was probably the most rewarding. I never worked so hard. Now, would I do that again if any of my sons wanted to work for me? No. But back in that time, it was commonplace. And I cherish those memories.
What was your first full-time job at the Y, and how much money did you make?
I was the physical director for the YMCA in Corsicana, Texas, and I started off making $12,000 a year. And I believe retirement was a different cadence of qualification. I think you were automatically in, but you were vested after 5 years, I think. So someone asked me recently about the retirement fund. I said, well, there's nothing more powerful than compound interest over 42 years. So, that's why many of us that have had long careers in the Y, we understand those numbers. And I've seen firsthand what it's meant for my family, the retirement. My dad, he passed away at age 90 a couple years back, and I told him before he died, I said, "Dad, you've taken out 3 times what you put in." And I said, and after you're gone, mom's going to continue to drain it. And I said, they've actually changed the formula because of you. And I told him about the annuity rate change. So
Yeah.
he got a smile on his face, you know. And
Yeah.
but
My dad is 92. I've moved him to look after him some. My mother's passed away and he's had a stroke. So I've moved him to my community and that check comes every month, baby. You know, and I'm like you, he's pulled out way more than he put in. So everybody listening, that's the
right.
power of that retirement fund. I mean, that check comes every month like clockwork.
Well, starting in January, there'll be 3 Jezeks that will be taking retirement checks out because my brother also had a long career in the Y. Both my dad and my brother had 35, 34,
Wow.
36 years of, if you professional, but I mean, if you count, my dad was, his first job was was in the basket room at the downtown Y in Oklahoma City. I think he made 50 cents an hour. So that was in the day when you would come in and check out a basket and you'd put your clothes in the basket. Then you'd go work out. Sometimes if you paid them a little extra, they would launder your clothes while you were working out. So when you got back, you had clean clothes. But I mean, yeah, it's you know, combined with my dad, my brother, and I, we're well over 100 years. And I gotta say something about my mom because she was right there
Oh yeah.
volunteering, and you know, she had some paid gigs at times where you know she was asked to do some things, but um, you know, my dad had really great attendance at board meetings. My mom would cook the lunch. This was not, we didn't cater. Mom would actually cook the meal and bring it from the home into the boardroom. And all of them were anxious to get there because she's a good cook.
Yeah, that's a classic. That is such a great story. Good for y'all. Good. So timeline of Corsicana, Texas. You said physical director.
Yeah.
Give me the timeline of your career.
All
How'd you
right.
jump
So
around?
I graduated from Texas Tech University in 83. And I went to work for the Y in Corsicana from 83 to 88. And then I was in I was at the General Assembly in Boston. We made the long drive. My dad and I made the long drive, family and everybody, from Corsicana, Texas to Boston for the first General Assembly. And we were going in to register, you know, and some friends of my dad from the Oklahoma City Association, um, Ed Glass, Kirk Thompson, and some others were, they caught us and they said, Ed, we need to talk to your son. And of course, you know, back in that time, you had to ask permission to talk to somebody that worked for you. That was the way. And he was like, later he goes, we drove thousands of miles. I come all the way up here for the General Assembly, and you're going to get taken from me. So they wanted to talk to me about a job in Oklahoma City. From Oklahoma City, I went there as a branch exec at the Bethany Y. Now it's, or it was the West Side Y. Now it's the Bethany YMCA, part of their association, 88 to 92. And then I got recruited. Clark Mitchell's mom was a member of my Y in Bethany. And she was really happy with what I was doing. And she told Clark Mitchell, who was the CEO in Baton Rouge, about me. So Clark's coming up, visiting his mom in the area, has a meeting with me, recruits me to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I was an executive director of the C.B. Pennington Junior Branch YMCA from 92 to 99. And then I got a call from Jerry Martin, who is in Memphis now as the CEO, to come to Jacksonville to be a part of the First Coast Association. I was there from 99 to 03, and that's where I met my now wife. Then I went from there to be, I was a VP in Jacksonville with First Coast. And then I became the COO in Stuart, Florida, YMCA the Treasure Coast, and worked for John Lass from 03 to 08. And then I've been the president and CEO here in St. Pete for the YMCA of Greater St. Petersburg since 08. So for the past 17, and by the time I finish, it'll be closer to 18 years as a CEO here.
That's great, man. That's a lot of names. So just my next question, follow up, who are the mentors other than your dad? Who are some of the mentors that really helped and continue maybe to help, but who are some of your mentors?
Yeah, I want to mention Ed Glass. He was a CEO in Oklahoma City. I've kept up with him a little bit. I hadn't talked to him in about 15 years, to be honest. I wanted to call people when I announced my retirement. I wanted to just kind of go on a thank you tour, just
Yeah.
start calling folks that made an
Good for you.
impact in my life. So I had Ed Glass's cell phone number in my phone. I'm like, I'm gonna call him. I mean, I don't know, maybe I really didn't even know if he was still living. And last time I'd heard he was in Colorado. Well, he answers the phone, and I said, Ed, this is David Jesse. He said, oh, hey, good to talk to you. And I said, did I catch you at a bad time? He said, no, I'm sorry, I just got off the golf course. And I said, Ed, remind me, how old are you? He said, I'm 92. I said, I want to be 92 playing golf.
It's a
But
great goal.
I have thanked him before, but I reminded him that of how much you know, I appreciated him as a young executive for them to take me under the wing and being a part of a large association at that time, and just the opportunity they provided was just very memorable. And I would tell you, I want anybody that's listening, don't wait. Um, start going back if you've had a 10-year career in the Y. I mean, I think it's great to reach back out and just let people know what they meant to you in your development. The reason I did that quick story, I went back to a Y had been at for 10 or 15 years, walked in the lobby, and this tall young man approached me and reached out his hand. He said, I remember you. And I of course I said, I'm sorry, I don't remember you. And he said, you taught me how to swim. And I want to thank you for that. Now he was probably in his late 20s, and I don't know, and I left there. I don't even think that young man knows the impact he had on me at that moment in juncture in my life. I just said, okay, note to self, don't wait till it's too late. Go back and thank people, even for the small things.
Do you feel that in your career though? That I mean, you've given so much, you've served so many people, but we receive much more back in return.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. I've never really thought of this as a job. Don't tell anybody. Uh, there's there's only been a couple of days that I didn't really want to go into work, and that was during COVID. But pretty much every day, I look forward to coming into the office, and it's crazy because I tell some of the young staff, I said, on a Friday, sometimes, I mean, I like my weekend. Don't get me wrong, I like my free time, but sometimes I just don't have enough time to get everything I want done or do, and so I don't view it as a hard stop. And in the Y, there's no gray. Everybody talks about work-life balance. If you're a Y director or a professional, there's no balance. It's balancing the imbalance of all that, right? And it's how how you treat it. So and everyone's wired a little different, how they need to. I've got some people I know they do a much better job than I can of separating that.
Yeah. Well, 18 years as a CEO, how has your leadership changed over that, or has it changed over those 18 years?
Well, I would tell you that probably about 5 years ago, I was still saying I'm learning how to be a CEO. And just about a week ago, even after I've made this announcement, I thought, man, I feel like I've really hit my stride. There's stuff that are just come natural to me. And I'm like, I was a late bloomer. There was a period in my career that I thought I was ready to be a CEO. And looking back at it, and I remember interviewing and being disappointed that I didn't get the job. And I am thankful I didn't, because I wasn't ready. A lot of my colleagues became CEOs far sooner than I did. I remember getting the senior director certification, the process you go through to get that. Um, I took a lot longer to get that certification than most, but I wasn't in a hurry. And yeah, I think and also too, having been involved in Y with my dad and seeing my dad become old school, the old school thought, the old guard. There's times I feel like I'm the old school old guard now, at age 64. So it's interesting to see how things come around, go around, right?
Yeah, yeah. Kind of going a little bit off script with you, COO to CEO. So the COOs that are watching, listening to this, what's the learning curve? What was the jump? What surprised you? I mean, contrast those two.
Well, once a COO, once an operator, always an operator. You can't take it out of them. I kind of chuckle. I chuckle. Any COO on this call or what listening, and and I look at the COO conference agenda and I look at the CEO conference agenda. They're almost duplicated. They're even when I'm with my colleagues, I'm like sometimes I think shouldn't our COOs be talking about that, not us? But it's human nature to just dive right back into it. And I think this. I think I've always wanted to be um, engaged um, in activities. At a CEO, sometimes you just fly in and it's a picture, and then you're out to the next thing, right? So um, I sometimes feel like I've slighted that opportunity just because I know that um, as a CEO you're pretty busy, and you can't diddle daddle. You gotta spend time wisely, and in an area that's going to be productive. So um, yeah, you've got to be willing to let your operators operate, and as a CEO you're looking more toward exploring new visions and opportunities of partnerships and things of that nature. Um, I I kind of laugh with my team. Sometimes I don't know about you, but I don't always get my way. And there's been some times where I've decided, you know what, I can't just play the CEO card and say this is the way it's going to be. I've had that happen to me as an operator. It doesn't feel good. So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I think when I've had my strongest number two, I probably followed his lead, or even my senior staff. I followed their lead about 70% of the time.
right,
But what I loved about him is when I did play the CEO card, they locked in with me.
right,
And that was the great dance that we had. That was what made us successful, is that they didn't go out and roll their eyes and second guess
right,
me. But literally, I mean, I follow their lead. You're right. Let's do
uh,
what y'all say. Yeah, let's do it.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also too, there are some great operators out there. I I think some of the COOs would be better off staying in the COO room because they're really good at it. And just because you're a good COO doesn't mean you're going to be a good CEO. Um, I just think that um, you know there's a lot to be said for being the best at what you do. I don't know if you've read the Good to Great book by Collins.
Oh
you
yeah.
know, what are you passionate about? What do you get up every morning looking forward to doing? Right. I think all of us in the Y, we can, most of us can say that. I mean, I already said, I look forward to getting up every day, you know, being good at what you do, being the best. It could be that, like I described, that Plano, sports director at the Y wanted to be the best sports director in the country. Right. And then, obviously the resources. We're not all going to be rich. And, I told my brother and my dad when I was in college that I was not going to work for the Y, that I was going to go into business. And at age 30, I was going to be a millionaire. Well, I decided to work for the Y getting out of college. And at age 30, my brother contracted or had a limo pick me up at my house with a note that says, "This is about as close as you're gonna get to being a millionaire. Enjoy the ride." And
Yeah.
I had an hour limo ride.
That's awesome. That's great. So thinking about, just those last comments, what advice do you give to this next generation of leaders on just their career trajectory?
Well, listen, I think the best advice is certainly um, expanding your if you want to develop and you want to go to the next level, and you kind of see the stepping stones. You're responsible for that, not your boss. A lot of people blame their own why for not providing them the development. I mean, you are responsible for your own development. I hear why professionals says, well, my why can't afford to send me to training. Well, then come out of pocket. If it's that important for you, pay for your own training. I mean, pay for your own development, invest in yourself. And I would say that, you know, um, continue to broaden your experience. A lot of people that want to, go up to different positions need to get outside of their comfort zone. I don't know if there's a clear path to becoming the CEO, but not everybody wants to become one. But yeah, it does play in your favor if you've taught swim lessons and you've run sports leagues and I taught aerobics in the 80s back when Jane Fonda was the hit thing, right? And if you've done all those programs, have been an executive director, a vice president, a COO, it's natural. So when you become a CEO, you can appreciate looking back at what your team members are faced with. There's not much that I haven't done in the Y, but it has changed a lot since we first started.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about that. How's it? What's the change?
We're more of a business.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, it's, and maybe I was naive a little bit early in my career because as a physical director or executive director running my unit, right, I wasn't privy to all the other things that happened. But risk management was not in our vocabulary when we started. I mean, we did things. I remember going in and changing the gas chlorinator, holding my breath while I turned the cylinder knob to change it out. And, OSHA probably would have had those things are outlawed now. I mean, just some of the things that we did, high diving boards, trampolines. I mean, thinking back of it, who would think it would be a good idea to put a 200-pound adult person on a trampoline and a 12-year-old skinny boy like me to protect him from falling on we were supposed to guard as they were jumping. And if they came your way, you were supposed to push them back. No, I was going to move out of the way. I'm not going to let that land on me. But those are the kind of things that we did back in that era. So it's changed a lot more. We live in a society today that's very litigious. There's all kinds of things that we have to be concerned about. So
it's different. What are you going to miss most about coming to work?
Camaraderie. Every day is different at the Y. You probably said this too. We always say when something happens, that's going in the book.
Yeah.
I've been writing a book for 42 years. I just haven't ever put it down to paper. I mean, some things that are just funny. And I knew it was going to be that way when I gave my first tour at the Y. I walked a lady into the natatorium, the indoor pool, and she asked me how long it was to the other end of the pool. And I said 25 yards. And then she said, how far is it back? And being a 21-year-old, I could have said something really smarty, right? But I said, well, ma'am, that's 50 yards round trip.
Yeah.
And I knew at that moment in time that it's going to be an interesting job. And I think back then, you may remember this, our motto was, we're in the people business.
That's right.
And I think we're still in the people business.
Yeah, I agree. If you're listening and you want to be a writer, you need to interview about 100 people with white hair and a white beard, and let's get who are the characters in our YMCA stories, or what are the stories out there, and that'd be a pretty good seller. That'd be a pretty good seller.
Absolutely.
What's your hope for the future of the movement of the YMCA?
Well, I hope we'll stay true to the core of who we are. I think we have somewhat drifted from our mission. I think oftentimes we don't really go back to why we are doing what we're doing, and sometimes we get distracted. I think that certainly being an organization that serves all people and meets people where they are, and to me, there's no other social service organization that brings people together from all walks of life under one roof or under one program deliverable that has that demographic mix. I mean, I think Y's should be microcosms of their community, and that goes from all perspectives. So depending on where you're located, that's your community, and I think that to me that's kind of the secret sauce of the Y, and I hope we don't forget that.
Yeah.
Um,
Has faith played a role in your work?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have done unto you, has always played. I mean, I don't know how many tables I've set up or how many chairs I've set up, even as a CEO. There's moments when everybody's, you finish an event. I don't just say, thanks guys and see ya. I'm breaking tables down. I'm stacking chairs with all of them. There's no job beyond me. I'm picking up trash when I walk through. I straighten the rug when I leave the building if I feel like it's out of whack and going to get stuck in the auto door. So and I want I want to treat people how I'd want to be treated. I've had some great bosses, and I've had some that weren't nearly as nice as I would have liked for them to be. And I'm reminded by that. And so I just always think it's important to treat people as you would want to be treated. And that golden rule is important to me.
Well, David, thank you for spending some time with us. That's just real impressive. You made a tremendous impact in these communities you've been in. You've made an impact on the movement because I know you've been on these national calls. I've heard your questions and your comments, and I appreciate that. I appreciate our relationship of being second generation people with a lot of familiarity there. So thanks to your mom and your brother to convey our thanks to them for the impact that you've had. But again, thanks. And everybody that's listening, I hope you'll share this with your team. Have some discussions. Think about your career and where it needs to go, and enjoy and make plans long-term for the YMCA, for that retirement fund. I hope you're a 92-year-old golfer someday.
Well, I got to take the game up again. My clubs haven't come out of my closet in a long time. So
Let's dust them off. Let's dust them. Thank you again, everybody. Just remember, lead with love. Take care.
Remember to always lead with